मैं तो दिल्ली में रहता हूँ और रेडियो फिजी बहुत रेडियो फिजी रोज सुनता हूँ.
रेडियो Fiji 2 देश की धड़कन.
Good evening, Fiji. In this bulletin, SADELPA leadership battle heats up. Millions still due in municipal rates. And Investment Fiji ready for tough battle.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Jackie Spade.
Opposition leader Sitiveni Rambuka has warned that any change in the leadership of the Social Democratic Liberal Party could spell disaster for SADELPA in the 2022 general election. Speaking to FBC News, Rambuka has confirmed that with his term coming to an end, leading players within the party are jockeying for the position. Edwin Nunn reports Rambuka has also hinted at whom he would like to see take over if he does not retain the party leader's post.
SADELPA's reputation has taken a beating in recent months, with much of its internal issues laid bare. But the party leader believes he has stayed above it all.
There has been a lot of negative publicity, although might be only in the social media. I believe my party, my support in the party, within the party, is now stronger.
While he may have the backing of the majority of party members, Rambuka is mindful that his public image is being damaged by the internal bickering which has divided SADELPA.
The best starting point is to retaining the 77, but some of the 77,000 are the ones who are now agitating about other things in the party.
And as the party prepares to receive applications for a new leader, Rambuka is wary of what any change could mean for the next general election.
My fear is that if somebody else wins, that those who supported me for party leader and in the election may leave.
Rambuka, who's chosen his three top bets, is advising his supporters to stick with SADELPA, no matter who is chosen as party leader.
I think the younger members like Linda Tambuya, I do not know whether Honorable Bill Ngavoka will be interested, Honorable Andre Chale.
The SADELPA Management Board is expected to announce soon whether applications have closed or if the position will be re-advertised. Edwin Nunn, FBC News.
As the ratepayers continue to complain about the services rendered by 13 municipal councils, it has been revealed that these town councils are owed $54 million. The local government minister says this includes arrears backdating several years, which is a concern as this also affects their service delivery. Kritika Kumar reports.
Minister Premila Kumar says total rates collected to date this year was to be around $34 million, of which only $21 million has been recovered.
So there is an arrears of about 13 million for 2020, year 2020 alone. We have seen roughly about 5 or 6 municipal councils, their rate collection is extremely poor, where they have collected just about 35% or 23%.
This COVID virus has actually brought in a lot of challenges, especially for us as a municipality in the sense of collecting arrears in rate. Now what we would like to encourage the ratepayers is please do come in.
The minister says the council is also losing out on revenue due to the restrictions put in place in light of COVID-19, as halls and sports grounds are not given out on hire. Kumar says the council's revenue is also lost because of the waiver of market stall fees.
We've done a calculation, it comes to roughly around $280,000 a month we are losing out in terms of revenue, and that's an important, it's very important for us to recover every cent so that we can provide the service.
The minister saying they are running most of the markets at a loss. Therefore, rate collection needs to be improved. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
Trading in the COVID-19 era with restricted borders and a handful of international flights is as hard as it sounds. But as the saying goes, the show must go on. For the new CEO for Investment Fiji, Craig Strong, the pandemic also opens up an urgent opportunity for a strategic reset. Maggie Boyle reports.
With international trade almost at a standstill, Investment Fiji is up for the challenge.
There's a lot to do, and we have an opportunity to be quite prescriptive on how we capitalise on these opportunities. Particularly, I think for us, the priority is as soon as we get back to some level of normalcy, is to really to secure our existing trading partners.
Formerly the Permanent Secretary for Ministry of Fisheries, the new CEO bustling with enthusiasm in the new role.
There's already discussions with government to government on our involvement with the bubble. And that's a critical part of the work going forward, but we need to be ready.
With the aim to increase Fiji's investment portfolio in a somewhat stagnant market, the CEO says home is where the financing may be.
So we've got some key initiatives and programs planned for the next 6 to 12 months, and that is around, one, obviously it's the export promotion and looking at fundamentally how we can enable would-be exporters.
Among the priorities is the release of an exporter's guide expected next month. Maggie Boyle, FBC News.
A low pressure system is continuing to affect Fiji, and this was evident with the heavy rain and flash flooding experienced today. Some roads remain closed due to floodwaters and also slips brought about by landslides. The Weather Office says people need to stay vigilant as more rain is in the forecast.
As we speak, this particular trough has remained within the vicinity of Fiji, and we expect this trough to remain slow moving as we look ahead into the later part of tomorrow. So from the later part of Saturday and into Sunday, we expect this trough to gradually move away.
In regards to the evacuation center, we have a total of 8 in the Central Division and 88 evacuees. In the Eastern Division, we now have 71 evacuation centers still open, with 522 evacuees. All evacuation centers in the Northern Division and the Western Division are now closed.
Minister for Economy Aya Said Kayum says a detailed analysis is needed as talks to join the Trans-Tasman COVID safe travel zone continues with our Pacific neighbours. The minister is in talks with the Australian Foreign Minister and the New Zealand Trade Minister on the necessary requirements to join the travel bubble. The Prime Ministers of the two countries have indicated they will consider expanding the bubble with the broader Pacific family.
These things don't get resolved overnight, or decisions aren't made overnight. There are various risks to be considered.
The Economy Minister emphasising that a number of factors must be considered before an arrangement can be agreed upon.
For example, if there is a protocol that's developed that if a New Zealander should travel to Fiji, then they should be, perhaps, as an example, there could be compulsory temperature testing before they get on the plane. When they get off here, there could be another test there. So what happens, for example, if a person, does not have a temperature, but when lands in Fiji, they do have a temperature? So what happens to airline tickets? What happens to insurance? Where do they get capped? What are the expenses?
Syed Kayum believes the two Prime Ministers need to assess each Pacific Island country differently and should also consider the hub status of Fiji.
The leader statement between PM Morrison and myself, we said, look, we're working with each other first. Once we get that sorted and we can do that safely, then we'll be talking to our Pacific neighbours. So that is in our minds, but it's about just taking it step by step. It will take time because, of course, we all have to come out the other side of our COVID battles first.
Pacific Island countries are different from each other. So rather than thinking that if they open up the bubble, they have to open it up to everybody. There are different experiences of different Pacific Island countries vis-a-vis COVID-19, different experiences, different capacities and capabilities of the health systems.
Syed Kayum says Fiji has done fairly good in handling the COVID-19 cases and was one of the first countries to close its borders to high-risk countries and cruise liners. Ritika Pratap, FBC News.
Up ahead, new deals won't affect price, says Housing Authority. And Namoli villagers plan climate fight.
Pula natango aprosra ngarse ngo erkraki do televe ono varong na Radio Fiji 1 nandomo ibiti.
Radio Fiji 1 nandomo ibiti.
The Housing Authority of Fiji will not lose out as real estate agents take over the task of selling their high-end residential lots. This follows the awarding of tenders to various real estate agents. Faria Begum with the story.
Housing Authority says they had advertised an expression of interest in January this year.
12 agents were selected through the process, and these agents are dedicated and professional in approach, and we believe that they have got a number of clients that we can assist Housing Authority selling our lots.
Sen has assured the public that by doing this, the authority has not deviated from its objective of making housing affordable for low-income earners.
We have placed the EOI for these lots, and after that, these lots are given to the agents to sell on our behalf.
The CEO has also highlighted that the criteria for purchasing these homes remain the same.
You need to be first home buyer, your income category, and you need to be a citizen of Fiji. However, for the residential lots, the criteria are same as our policy, that you're supposed to be a Fiji residents.
Sen says this partnership will benefit both parties equally. Faria Begum, FBC News.
Civil servants in the Northern Division today conducted another round of cleanup as part of interventions towards the reduction and eradication of leptospirosis, typhoid, dengue and diarrhea. The aim of the source cleanup is to prevent the increasing numbers of LTDD confirmed cases. Civil servants combed the areas of Univau, Vulovi, Batinicama, Siberia, Nadula, Wasavulu, Benau, Korotari and Wailevu, clearing drains, picking up rubbish and removing materials that mosquitoes are most likely to breed in. These are hotspot areas for dengue fever. The Northern Division currently has the highest number of confirmed dengue fever cases compared to the other divisions. As of 26th April, the number of lab-confirmed cases in Fiji stood at 791. 43% of these cases, or 340, are from Vanuatu, the majority of which are from Maduata, and most predominant among 10 to 29-year-olds. The LTDD source reduction plan is to conduct 2 consecutive weeks of cleanup for all of Vanuatu. A $900,000 grant agreement has been signed between the Asian Development Bank and the government that will be used to fund priority recovery activities following Tropical Cyclone Harold. The Category 4 cyclone that hit the Western, Central and Eastern divisions on 8th and 9th April caused widespread destruction. The emergency funds will be used to provide support for the restoration of basic social services to affected communities.
That will be used for the drinking water, sanitary kits, shelters, some medications, so those immediate essential needs for the people.
Attorney General Ayasaid Kayum, while acknowledging the assistance, highlighted that ADB is assisting Fiji in other areas as well.
And of course, ADB is working with us very closely on other programs that we do have in terms of infrastructure and various other loan arrangements we do have with them, and we're looking forward to working with them, of course, in the years to come. And of course, we're working closely with them in the new budget that we delivered for the 2020-2021 fiscal year.
Coastline communities continue to be victims of climate change. Permanent Secretary for Waterways Joshua Wycliffe says this was clearly portrayed in recent weeks during Tropical Cyclone Harold, where flooding and storm surges ravaged our coastal communities. Sanyani Boylo reports.
Climate change has resulted in beach erosion in Namoli village in Lautoka, and the Waterways Ministry has stepped up to address this.
That we provide a grey-green infrastructure, a hybrid of grey and green. So in this grey and green infrastructure, as you see, we have boulders that are built across, but we're also, that would be the secondary line of defense. We now rely on nature-based primary defense, which is your long-term as well.
Namoli villager Atunai Sambali says the mangrove planting initiative will continue as it will greatly enhance their livelihood.
This initiative will greatly assist us in trying to be to combat and be climate change resilient. The planting of mangroves today will surely act as a barrier and cushion waves to prevent further coastal erosion.
The Waterways Ministry will soon be announcing a green tech-based solution to help coastal communities affected by climate change. Sainian Imboila, FBC News.
Turning overseas, Joe Biden is yet to name his running mate for the U.S. presidential election. But there is one name most Democrats would love to see on the ballot: Michelle Obama. With all the day's business news, Whitney is here to give you the details.
Thanks, Jackie. In business tonight, University rolls out new mode for businesses. And Fiji Airways to stay grounded. Stay with us.
My name is Neha and I'm from Karavi. And Mirchi FM, it's hot.
Mirchi FM, it's hot.
As online learning is becoming more of an option at local institutions, the University of the South Pacific has provided platforms for their students and their partnering enterprises. The USP Pacific TAFE has launched a training stimulus package to assist employers upskill workers given the economic slowdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The online training platforms offers 300 courses that the Fijian workforce can access from their office and homes. Venina Rakautonga with the details.
The training stimulus package has been launched to minimize business disruption and comply with physical distancing guidelines.
It is most likely that training needs would be minimal at this point in time because of the crisis. What we are saying is that if you can provide incentives, which you could look at during this crisis, it is possible that these incentives could help your workforce.
Pacific TAFE Chief Executive Officer Dr. Hasmukh Lal says they aim to make learning accessible as possible.
So what we have seen, with this recent pandemic, that the industry is struggling, in terms of keeping themselves sustainable, and definitely, training may not be their priority. So what we want is that through this online training stimulus package, the corporates, the industry, they continue to invest in the upskilling of the staff.
Despite the global crisis, new opportunities are being developed where learning is made flexible and accessible for students and the wider community. Venina Rakautonga, FBC News.
Following rebranding after 3 decades, the Fiji Coconut Millers Private Limited is now focusing on increasing its export market and reducing import bills on cooking oil. Chair Raj Sharma says Fiji spends around $17 million on importing cooking oil, while export stands around just over $2 million. The main export market currently is Malaysia, where 80% crude oil is exported. Sharma says with a consistent supply of copra, they are now focusing on diversifying their products. He says work has started on coconut cooking oil, for which they have invested $300,000 on new machinery.
We have got a first batch of cooking oil, but we have sent it to Australia for lab test because it needs to be, when we consider health and food safety, so we have sent it to our labs in Australia to have it tested so that it gives a quality is never compromised, and that is one thing that we will look at. We're looking at to be rolled out by end of this month or early next month.
Fiji Airways has extended all international flight suspensions to the end of June due to the prolonged impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The national carrier also expects to reduce its July scheduled services as the COVID-19 crisis continues to decimate travel demand. In March, the airline announced suspension of international flights until 31st May. Chief Executive Andre Filion has cautioned that even with tentative schedules from July, any resumption of flights will depend on the easing of border restrictions and return of demand. Filion says while the near-term outlook remains bleak, the airline remains flexible and will be ready to launch services as soon as practical. He says the extension by a month is a difficult but necessary decision, given the uncertainty surrounding the June operating environment. Time for Gary to give us the latest from the money markets.
An additional 3.2 million American workers have applied for unemployment claims last week, taking the count in the wake of the coronavirus lockdowns to 33.5 million. The data comes ahead of tomorrow's non-farm payroll report, which is expected to show the U.S. shedding a record 21 million jobs and the unemployment rate surged to 16% in April. The pound sterling strengthened against the US dollar today after the Bank of England voted to keep its interest rate at 0.1%. While they expect a sharp fall in GDP and unemployment, policymakers saw the economy improve later in the year and expect the decline in GDP to be temporary. The Aussie dollar gained momentum against the greenback after reports of trade representatives from both the US and China held a phone conference today, which brought fresh optimism. Surprisingly, the Aussie didn't weaken due to gloomy reports from the Reserve Bank of Australia, who warned that unemployment will rise to 9% by Christmas, while the business sector could take years to fully restart its investment plans. And that's all from HFC Bank. Naka.
Turning to today's exchange rates as set this morning, the Fijian dollar was on the up, holding its own against the Chinese yuan, the kina, the euro and the Japanese yen. Onto the commodities market, crude oil was down again today to $23.86 per barrel, gold ending at $1,716 per ounce, while silver improved today to $15.42 per ounce. That's it from Business Tonight. It's back to Jackie with the latest in sports.
In sports after the break, Fiji FA takes first step towards lifting standard of football. And archery seeks permission to resume training.
Bola, I'm Miri, I'm from Lotoka and I love Gold FM because they play all my classic hits.
Gold FM, only the classic hits.
The Fiji Football Association hosted its first national coaching workshop today under the guidance of head coach Fleming Seretslev. This is part of the association's initiative to lift the standard of football in Fiji. Karatavi with the details.
Fijian head coach Fleming Seretslev has highlighted the importance of improving on the speed and mentality of our local players.
It's actually rather clear for me. First of all, it's about speed of the game. It's about the speed and timing and direction of passes, and it's about the mentality of players here in Fiji.
Fiji FA Chief Executive Mohammed Yusuf says the new mentor has come with his new philosophy that the district coaches will have to abide by.
We find it very necessary because the coach over the last 2 months during the lockdown has developed coaching manuals for various levels of football. At the moment he is talking to the senior coaches in the districts with the under-19 boys coaches.
More than 10 district coaches were part of the one-day workshop held at the Fiji Football Association head office in Batuanga. A similar workshop will be held in Labasa next week and later in Ba. Karlini Tavi, FBC Sports.
Archery Fiji Federation has lodged their application to the Ministry of Youth and Sports as well as the Sports Commission, seeking approval for the members to resume training. President George Fong says given that archery is classified as a non-contact sport, the Federation looks to get approval for the archers vying for the Olympics to resume training. Fong says home training is not ideal and the archers need to train in their archery range.
Majority of our members aren't able to actually practice in any kind of fashion. Some are able to practice at very, very short distances, sort of 5 meters, in which case you're just training technique.
Funding will not be an issue for Team Fiji ahead of the 2021 Tokyo Olympics and the Pacific Mini Games. Both events will be held next year, with the Mini Games to be staged either before or after the Olympics. Vasanok Chief Executive Lorraine Ma says funding allocated to sports will be diverted towards relief efforts post-TC Harold and to the fight against COVID-19. However, Ma says they're confident funding will come through for both events.
We rely on the corporate community as well as the people of Fiji when it comes to our fundraising, and everyone suffering now, we're going to have to be quite strategic as to the type of fundraising we do.
The return of two of New Zealand's favourite sports are on the horizon, with professional netball and rugby to resume when the country shifts to Alert Level 2. It is understood June 13th is the target date to kick off Super Rugby Aotearoa. Coming up, will the handshake remain post-COVID-19? We'll have more in the world of the weird and the wonderful after the break, but also the latest from the world of weather. Stay with us.
Bula, I'm Miri, I'm from Lotoka, and I love Gold FM because they play all my classic hits.
Gold FM, only the classic hits.
In new media, Northwest region in China is known for its diverse agricultural products, especially when it comes to fruits and nuts. However, many farmers find it difficult to market their abundant harvests and are now resorting to e-commerce. And our favourite weather lady is here to tell you more about what to expect from the weather world.
Hello to you and to a rainy Friday. Well, I guess conditions we had today didn't go as planned. It was a sudden rage of winds and rain, almost seemed like a mini hurricane. Here is the actual scenario of the morning. The winds kept picking up speed, accompanied with rain. People were rushing to get to work. Remember what I said from observation? The rain hits heavier just when it's 8 a.m. Do remember, flash flooding alert is still active for low-lying areas. Now let's swing over to the west. The showers were heavy here. Parts of the town and the division were flooded. If you see floodwaters, please keep away and especially keep the children away from it. Eastwards from Pak Hawa to Suva, gusty winds were rolling at about 25 knots before semi-clearing. The night will have heavier falls. And up north, conditions were cooler. Rain was in the picture and it will slowly drift away. At sea, southeast winds 15 to 25 knots, rough seas. Turning to the tides, high tide at 1:26 a.m. with low tide at 7:40 a.m. Sunrise at 6:22. For tomorrow, good news. The rain will start clearing off, not fully clear away, but will be in the process too. So even if you go out, take your umbrellas. Tomorrow's temps, all centers will remain cool in the high 20s. And looking further on to Sunday, it's Mother's Day, and I bet the weather will also be rejoicing and celebrating by giving us good weather. So cheers to that, and happy Mother's Day to all lovely mums and to dads as well who are in the role of moms. Have a great weekend and keep safe.
Thanks so much for that, Angie. In Fiji on Pulse today, we asked, how do you plan to spend Mother's Day this weekend?
And what I'm going to do for Mother's Day is spend with my mom who resides in Suva. It's been quite a while.
During this Mother's Day, the most important thing is just to stay with my mom because she's still alive. And I can count that I'm lucky to be with her.
This Mother's Day, I'll be spending it with my mom since it's been 2 years since I've stayed with my biological mom.
Mother's Day, I think I'm just going to do things that's going to please my mom, things that she's wanting me to do. For example, cook for her. Definitely not in a state to buy gifts.
For this Mother's Day, I'll be spending it with my mother and the whole family because I live with my mother, and I'll be cooking for my mom. And happy Mother's Day, Mom.
In the world of the weird and the wonderful, will the tradition of handshakes survive the pandemic? As COVID-19 is changing our habits and social norms. Recapping the main stories for tonight, SIDELPA leadership battle heats up. Millions still due in municipal rates. And Investment Fiji ready for tough battle. Now for these stories and others, tune in daily to our sister radio station Gold FM. Our poll question this week we're asking, do you think Sir Bill Beaumont's re-election as World Rugby Chair was the right outcome? visit our FBC website to answer. And on to our shot of the day. With the heavy downpour that stunned many this morning, this was the situation at Nasivi Bridge in Vatukola. These shots were sent in by George Naivakaruru. And show us what you've been up to during the lockdown and movement restrictions. Email fbcnews@fbc.com.fj. Share it with us on our Facebook page, FBC News, and our Twitter page at FBC_news. That's your news for tonight. Until tomorrow, Modamanda.
I'm Miri, I'm from Lotoka, and I love Gold FM because they play all my classic hits.
Gold FM, only the classic hits.